56,000 rupees, 61,000 rupees, 1 lakh rupees. Is it actually justified to pay so much money for a high-spec smartphone, especially in 2019? Okay, so I'm not going to tell you that performance doesn't matter and that we should be satisfied with low specs. No, it is 2019 and the performance absolutely matters. And that is why expensive smartphones need to justify their high price tag. Because as we are going to see in this video, they have a lot of tough competition ahead. Okay, so I have divided this video into two parts. First, we are going to see why expensive smartphones are a scam, and then we are going to see how this will impact the future of mobile industry and ultimately us as consumers. There are a number of factors involved in making a smartphone super expensive. However, all of them boil down to three big points. A smartphone is priced higher due to its exclusive features. Then comes its app and software support along with an assurance for future updates. And lastly, there is also a promise that your smartphone will remain a top spec machine for at least a year or so. But the thing is, all of these reasons have been shattered. Well, almost. The exclusive features which debut on high-end smartphones take absolutely no time in trickling down to low or medium budget smartphones. And when I say budget smartphones, I mean the phones which lie between the 20 to 25,000 range or the $399 price tag smartphones. So these mobile phones really compete with the heavy hitters in the market. So for example, Xiaomi K20 Pro. This phone was launched just one day after the OnePlus 7 Pro was revealed to be the fastest phone, and subsequently it took the crown of the fastest phone away from the OnePlus. I mean, with 8GB RAM, Snapdragon 855 processor and 256 gigs of storage, the Xiaomi K20 Pro has almost all the great features of the OnePlus 7 Pro. This is just one example. Because if we talk about Apple, they were the first to introduce notch on their iPhone. But very soon, Chinese phone makers like Oppo and Vivo gave us pop-up cameras which made full-screen displays a reality. And as we are speaking, these Chinese companies are readying their smartphones with an under-display camera system. Oppo also introduced a working prototype of this new camera system, which officially makes them an innovator in the smartphone market. Even in terms of timely software updates, the mid-range flagships are getting better than their $1,000 competitors. Xiaomi, for instance, updated 7 of its most popular smartphones, including the Poco phone, with the latest Android Pie update in December, which is way before than Samsung, Motorola, Asus, LG, HTC, and even Razer. And that's not all. Several Xiaomi phones are also in line to get the latest Android Q update as well. And in the end, even the most obvious difference between a budget smartphone and a flagship smartphone, which is of technical specification, is almost gone. As my mom, who is a non-tech person, still believes that a 1 lakh rupees phone holds extremely high specs over a budget smartphone. And boy, is she wrong. To further explain my point, let us take the earlier example of OnePlus 7 Pro. It should have remained the fastest smartphone at least for a year. I mean, that's the whole selling point of OnePlus smartphones. But Xiaomi came along with K20 Pro and claimed to have defeated the OnePlus 7 Pro in AnTuTu benchmark scores. I don't know about you, but if I were a OnePlus 7 fan, then I would have been really disappointed. This practice of making outrageous claims actually hurts the consumer who puts his money and faith on the line. People nowadays have more incentive to buy flagship killers as compared to flagships because they hold their values for long. For example, flagship killers like the Poco phone depreciate really slow as compared to flagship smartphones like the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus. Earlier, it used to be the case that these companies like Oppo, Vivo and Xiaomi at least took a few weeks or months before announcing their flagship killers, but nowadays it happens almost instantly. And very soon we will be seeing these Chinese companies leading the market as well. I mean, the current situation is that expensive smartphones can no longer maintain their high-end features for a long time. For example, companies like Apple, Google and Samsung have been forced to give high-end smartphone features in budget smartphones ever since these Chinese companies arrived on the scene. It can be clearly seen as well. Google knows that it can't keep the camera experience of Pixel 3 as a sacred thing which will never be copied. So the company decided to launch its own budget smartphone, which is a Pixel 3a with a Pixel 3 camera. Even Apple was forced to launch the iPhone XR with the same processor as the iPhone XS at just half the cost in India. And the same strategy is working for them as well. I mean, iPhone XR was the best selling iPhone in the United States last year. Pixel 3a has been showered with critical acclaim, and the same can be said for Samsung Galaxy M40, which is on sale the second time at the time of making this video. Furthermore, in order to stay really competitive, these companies start offering extra features which usually have some trade-offs. For example, the new OnePlus 7 Pro screen has a high refresh rate, but that drains its battery really fast. You might also remember the exploding Galaxy Note 7. Yeah, well, as it turns out, the phone's battery was too large for the battery casing and it ended up exploding everywhere, even on planes. The point I'm trying to make is that companies don't like to lose, especially big companies. And whenever they start losing, they start cutting corners. It is 2019 and the variety of smartphones is the biggest than it has ever been in the recorded history. I mean, the performance difference between a flagship and a flagship killer is almost unnoticeable in the present age. And that is why several big companies are trying to find new grounds to justify the high cost of their expensive smartphones. And that is why the industry as a whole is shifting towards user and privacy. Apple has given a lot of push to users' privacy in its latest iOS 13 update, which has the sign in with Apple feature to protect the user from unwanted emails and useless online subscriptions. Even Google of all is shifting its focus to privacy with Android Q. The new auto-delete feature along with the incognito inside apps like YouTube is the latest must-have feature of 2019. But the focus of the industry is slowly being shifted from creating a high-spec powerhouse to creating a more privacy-focused device. Okay guys, that was it. If you found this video useful, then do remember to hit the like button and the subscribe button and the bell icon. And until then, this is Yatnesh Dubey signing off.